Oh, hello. I was just going to listen to Wizard Tattoo's new album and play some Vampire Survivors. You want to join me? Gotta go fast, Ogilvy. All right. So, Spooktober games. What am I playing? Well, first of all, I am still playing Alan Wake 2, playing it on PC. So what is Alan Wake 2? Well, I've already talked about it. So this is just a little refresher. Alan Wake 2 is the sequel to Alan Wake 1, which was a game that came out, I don't know, like 13 years ago. It is done by Remedy Software. These are the guys who did Control. And in fact, they now kind of have a shared Alan Wake Control universe. Alan Wake and Control, they both take place in this same universe. In fact, in Alan Wake 2, the janitor from Control makes a cameo, which is, I don't know, it's really fun. There's a part of me that's like, oh man, this is really cool, but there's another part of me that's like, wow, this is just too fan servicey. You know, that was kind of my problem I had with Dark Souls 3. Like, there was just so many callbacks to earlier games that it was too much of a fan service. Anyway, this is beside the point. Alan Wake 2 is a horror game, sort of. It definitely has horror elements to it, definitely has things where it tries to scare you. It's like a graphical powerhouse. It requires very, very demanding of whatever hardware you play it on. And like I said, I'm playing it on PC. I had to dial settings back, or rather I had to reduce the internal render resolution because I'm using DLSS to like AI upscale it. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think I'm about 7 or 8 hours into it by this point. I have a couple of thoughts on it. The first thought is that compared to Alan Wake 1, it has way less action. And Alan Wake 1 admittedly didn't have a lot of action, but it definitely had sections where it's like you go along and you do something, and now all of a sudden you're in like a little arena and you got to kill all the bad guys. And then you go on along and do other things, and now you're in another arena and you have to kill the bad guys. This game doesn't have that same pattern. In fact, this game is, in a lot of ways, it's kind of more of a walking simulator at this point. Like I said, I'm about 7 or 8 hours into the game, and there really hasn't been that much by way of action. There's been an awful lot of walking around various creepy locations and investigating things. And then some interesting puzzle solving, at least when you start playing Alan Wake, the Alan Wake character, who has one of the ways he can solve problems. There's 2 things he does to solve problems. The first thing is he kind of builds a narrative for his story, because of course that's the premise behind these games, is that there's some evil entity that's using the power of creative people to shape reality. And so Alan Wake has this ability to kind of craft the story that he's constructing. And so you do have sequences where you have to kind of figure out where the plot points should go, which is, frankly, a really cool and interesting gameplay mechanic that I really haven't seen before. His other mechanic that he has that is also pretty cool is he has the ability to like steal the light from different light sources and then put them in other light sources, usually opening up new pathways. It's really cool and slightly unique gameplay mechanics. That being said, like I said, Alan Wake 2 really does feel a lot more like a walking simulator than the first one. And I don't know, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot, but it's the sort of thing where I kind of wonder how much the game is going to appeal to other gamers. And I know that there's already some, gamers out there who are saying that this is not a game for everybody, and I definitely see that because, yeah, it's got a very different focus than the previous Alan Wake game. But, regardless, I am enjoying it. It's a lot of fun, and I mean, quirks of the game aside, it is something that I do recommend. Alan Wake 2, great fun. All right, so the next Spooktober game that I'm playing is Daymare, 1994 Sandcastle, which is the prequel to Daymare 1998. So Daymare is, and I mentioned this the last time, it's a Resident Evil clone. I mean, it's really trying very hard to be a classic Resident Evil title. But it is a smaller independent studio, so it's going to get all of the same jank that you would expect from a smaller studio. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I love the first one, of course, and I'm really loving the second one. It does seem to have a lot of jank, though. Probably more than it needs to have. And it also is. It's kind of strange because it's graphically substantially better looking than the first game, but there's a lot of questionable graphical choices that they make. Like the fire effect in this game looks really weird. And there's just sections where it's like, is that supposed to be fire? Is that supposed to be flames? What am I looking at? But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a blast. I don't really have a lot else to say. It's campy survival horror, and I'm enjoying it. It's fun. All right, the last Spooktober game that I'm playing this week is Dead Estate. I am playing this on Steam. Specifically, I've been playing this on my Steam Deck. At the time of this recording, I haven't actually played it on my desktop, but I'm probably going to have to play it on the desktop so I can capture footage, because capturing footage from the Steam Deck is kind of a pain in the butt, and I'd rather not do it. It's easier just to do it on the PC. But what is Dead Estate? Dead Estate is a roguelite. It's another one of these roguelite games, but it's a twin-stick shooter where you kind of explore these various randomly generated areas, and you're trying to find keys to unlock boss levels and to unlock the next area and move on. And of course, it's a roguelite, so every single run that you do has a randomly generated, I don't think they're called dungeons, but I'm going to call it a dungeon because that just, in my mind, it's a good way to explain what the experience is. They're randomly generated dungeons, and each run it's generated uniquely, and you're probably going to die a lot. But the idea is that you want to progress and slowly unlock more things to the point where eventually you'll get a run that is successful and allows you to progress and move on. And eventually, rinse and repeat, hopefully you can beat the game. But that's what I've been playing, Dead Estate, and it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I've been playing it on my Steam Deck, and I will say, as far as the Steam Deck experience is concerned, this game is great on a Steam Deck. And in fact, again, I haven't played it on my desktop, but I can't imagine, other than recording stuff for this video, I can't imagine playing it on PC. It just is one of those games that just seems to lend itself very well to the handheld experience. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I don't know what else to say. Dead Estate. It's really fun. All right. So those are the Spooktober games. Let's talk about the non-Spooktober games that I've been playing. Well, I finally started Gleylancer for the Sega Genesis. So this is a game that I got fairly recently in the mail. I actually think that at the time, when this video goes up, the unboxing video, the Pendulous Mail Sack video that has me opening this, will have just gone up the Friday before. So to you, it might seem like I just got this and immediately started playing it. But in reality, I've had this for like 2 weeks now, and I haven't had a chance to play it until this last weekend. And Sunday, basically, I plugged this thing into my Mega SG and I played it, and I pretty much played it all day Sunday and beat it. I really, really, really loved it. So what is it? Well, it's a 16-bit side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, side-scrolling shmup, bullet hell. That it has very clear inspirations from things like the Daymare series or R-Type. In fact, there are aspects of it that really remind me of R-Type. Some of the weapon types and the way that you have these little extra ships that kind of float around you and give you additional firepower. All that very much feels like R-Type to me. But surprisingly, this game has a story. Like, it's bizarre. It's got, most of the time shmups don't have, they either have really contrived stories that are impossible to follow, or they have no story whatsoever. This game actually has a story that's surprisingly easy to follow. It's not really a terribly complex story, to be honest. It's certainly not Shakespeare, but, it has a story, a surprising amount of story. And the basic gist is that it actually takes place in 2025, which is utterly wild to me. That somebody back in the 90s, they're like, okay, let's have some future time when Earth has expanded to the stars and they have ships capable of faster than light travel, and they have big space battles and they go up against an alien force. What year would that be? Oh, I know, let's pick 2025. But anyway, so it takes place in the future year of 2025, where there's an Earth fleet that is kind of like on patrol, and an alien enemy force comes in and warps away the head ship from the fleet and the commander on that fleet. And you play as, I don't know what her name is. I don't think, does it say what her name is? Lucia! It does say what her name is. It's on the box, it's probably also in the game. Anyway, you play as this girl, Lucia, who is the daughter of the commander who was on the ship that got warped away. And you basically steal this experimental ship that is on the ship that you're stationed at, and you steal it and go on a rescue mission to save your dad. That's like the premise of the game. That's the story. Which is, like I said, it's wild to have a shmup have a story that has cutscenes and is something you can follow, and it's weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be weird, but it is weird. Anyway, what follows is, I don't know, half a dozen or so. It says there's 11 stages, so a little bit less than a dozen stages of 16-bit shmup goodness. I played it, started it on Sunday, finished it Sunday night. I just had so much fun with it. I really, really loved it. I meant to look up before recording this. I don't know if this actually came out in the States. I think that this might have only come out in Japan. I could be wrong, but I certainly had never played it before. And I really feel like I missed out. I would have loved this back in the 90s. I mean, I love it now, but had this come out in the 90s, it would have blown my mind. But yeah, Gleylancer for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive. Beat it this weekend. Had a hell of a lot of fun. So what's the next thing? The next non-Spooktober thing that I'm playing? Well, I mentioned that I got my Atari 50 arcade cabinet, which I don't know what I'm going to put here. I'll figure something out. Will be something here. I've been playing it a lot lately. And I've been having a lot of fun. There's a part of me that's like, oh, this is a whole lot of nostalgia stuff, because, these are arcade games from when I was a little kid. I would go to the arcade and I would play Asteroids, and I would play Missile Command, and I would play Centipede and Millipede, and all of these games that are on this system. So naturally, I am going to get into them. But in addition to that, of course, it also has Atari 2600 games, which, I would come home and I would play on my Atari 2600 as a kid. So this Atari 50 thing it's like they made it just for me, or people like me. And it's, the 50th anniversary of Atari, which is kind of hilarious because I recently turned 50. I didn't realize that Atari and I were basically the same age. But anyway, I've been having so much fun with this cabinet. It is a lot of fun. It's awesome. All of that being said, I'm not sure I would really necessarily recommend this for other people. If you are like me, and you're somebody who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and you played in arcades in the 70s and the 80s, and you played these games, this is undeniably the best place to play them. You know, between having a proper trackball and the knob for stuff like Breakout, basically you get incredibly arcade-perfect controls. And so if you are somebody who does remember, you're old enough to remember playing these things in the arcade, or if you're somebody who also played Atari 2600 games, then this is a great buy. This is a great thing for you to play. If, however, you aren't like me, if you're somebody who didn't grow up in the 70s and 80s playing arcade games, or if you're somebody who didn't spend a lot of time in the arcades in the 70s and the 80s, or if you're just somebody that's younger, I'm not sure that this is a good purchase for like the general public. It's extraordinarily niche, and yeah, I mean, my daughter has come down and played it a couple of times, but she would much rather go play the pinball game that we've got or go play the big Pac-Man cabinet, because these games, they are even too old for her to appreciate. You know, these are games that came out, you know, before 1983. A lot of these are vector graphics. Those that aren't vector graphics are very simplistic. And yeah, if you go into it not knowing what they are, I think you'd probably be disappointed. But if you're like me and somebody who grew up playing this stuff, well, then hell, this is a great thing, and it's a lot of fun. And I've been playing it, and I've been really enjoying it. Atari 50, good fun.
I don't remember the maze. Isn't there? You're down here. And it's up here. That's right. Badam.
All right. What's the next one that I've been playing? The next one that's not Spooktober. Well, I started something called Forest Fire on PC. This is another one that I've mostly played on the Steam Deck, but I will admit, it is really, really fun to play on PC. You get you turn its music down, you get some good music get some good tunes going in the background. You know, maybe it's late at night, you're having a little bit to drink or something else, and it's just a lot of fun. So what is it? What is Forest Fire? Well, it's a roguelite. In a lot of ways, it's similar to Vampire Survivors in that there's no direct control over attacks, I guess. But what's different about it, the thing that makes it unique, is that you play as a little ember, a little fire, and your purpose is to basically torch everything. You go and you torch forests, and you torch grasslands, and you torch buildings, and you torch people, and you just cause mayhem and destruction, and you just try to kind of rack up the multipliers and get your scores and your combos really, really high, and you rinse and repeat. But it's a fun little game, and I've really been enjoying it. It's also really cheap, and it plays great on the Steam Deck. So yeah, Forest Fire. Fun game. Recommend highly. All right, the last game is going to come as no surprise to anybody. Vampire Survivors. Technically, I'm still playing this on the Switch, but they recently pushed out a patch for all of them that added this new whiteout gameplay. Actually, at the time of this recording, I think it was today, or maybe it's tonight that they're pushing it out. They got a new patch that's going to add a story mode to the game. Regardless, I am going to have to go back to the PC and the Xbox versions and unlock all the new stuff. But for now, I'm still playing it on the Switch, and I'm continuing to try to unlock everything on the Switch. My goal is to unlock everything on the Switch before returning back to PC and the Xbox version. I don't need to sell it anymore. I've talked about it before. Plenty of other people have talked about it. But I'm loving it. I really love Vampire Survivors. And this new whiteout mode, I should say, is actually pretty interesting. One of the problems, or not necessarily a problem, but one of the balance issues is a lot of the tools that freeze the enemies, they have a tendency to not mesh well with other weapons and abilities. So you'll frequently find situations where people will go in and ignore all of the weapons that can freeze enemies. And what's interesting about this new area that they've added is that it comes with a new weapon that actually encourages freezing enemies. The weapon becomes more powerful when going up against enemies that are frozen. So they're kind of like giving us this new mode to play and emphasizing weapons and abilities that previously people have kind of ignored. But no, I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. Vampire Survivors is a great game. And I'm loving it. I recently got the Atari Game Station. This is the controller, the wireless controller. It's kind of a cool controller. I haven't recorded any video for it, and I haven't talked about it on the What Are You Playing? But this controller is cool, but the thing that I've noticed is it's kind of reinforcing something I already knew, which is these older games are kind of designed around low latency input. And so as soon as you introduce something that's wireless, which is invariably going to introduce latency, the games become almost unplayable. And I love the Game Station. It's a lot of fun, but I will admit that the latency, the extra lag from these controllers makes some of these games a little harder than they should be. I do like the look of it, though, the aesthetics of this controller. Like, transport this controller back to 1983, 1982, and hand this thing to a young me, I would have been blown away by this controller. Like this controller with the knob and the trigger and the two buttons, and that's a cool controller. Anyway, I got nothing else. See ya.